Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Matchbook Champions League podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides. We're here to look ahead to this round of fixtures in the Champions League. It's the second leg of ties in the last 16. And not going to lie, it's a difficult looking week, potentially from a punter's perspective. Some ties that are in rather tricky scenarios, but we're still going to try and look for the best possible value. And I'm joined to do so by Mark O'Hare and Ian Broadrick from We Love Betting. Brothers, thank you very much. I was worried I was having a bad hair day.
I've been promoted to We Love Betting. I like that.
Oh, you're not.
We'll talk about my salary afterwards, Mark.
But yeah, there we go. I thought I was having a bad hair day, but I'm not. I'm all good.
Yeah, nothing on me.
I mentioned at the top of the program that it is a bit of a tricky week for punters. Mark, you've been looking at numbers, you've been looking at stats, you've been looking at matches for the last 24 hours, and you've come up with the conclusion that it's a bit tricky this week.
Yeah, it is. I'm not massively into in-play punting, but I definitely do think that second leg ties in knockout competitions are probably where you want to get involved in in-play, because the first goal in almost all four of these ties is going to be pivotal to how the ending, the outcome really comes out to it, because there's so much on the line. It's very, very difficult to second guess some of these ties. Some teams are already 2-3 goals ahead, and if they score the first goal in the second leg, it could always be just kind of pack up and go home, because there's little left to play for the opposing team, which does make it very difficult from a pre-match perspective. But we'll do our best. Found a few options which I like the look of, but at the same point, I'm not going to be sort of advising we go full on all guns blazing into this round. Hopefully Brothers is a bit more confident than I am in some of these matches, but two of them will probably be kind of stay away from me right now, but I'll share those views anyway.
Okay, bit of caution, but there is a few angles that we'd like to explore at least, and then we'll obviously, as ever, leave it up to you to make your own decisions and conclusions. Before we get to the games, I want to tell you about a new offer that we have at Matchbook, and it's for new customers only. It's 0% commission on all sports until the 12th of April. Existing customers are already getting 2% net win commission, which is fantastic value anyway. But if you're a new customer and you sign up, then you can get 0% commission on all sports until the 12th of April. Sign up at matchbot.com using the bonus code INSIGHTS. Obviously, you have to be over 18. Terms and conditions do apply. And I'll give you a reminder a bit later on in the program of this offer once again. Let's get right then to the action and kick off in Liverpool, where the Reds host RB Leipzig with a pretty comfortable first leg lead. Obviously, the Merseysiders won 2-0 in Germany in the first leg. You can get them at 2.4 to win on the night, which looks like a relatively big price. RB Leipzig at 2.99 to win, and the draw at 3.64. Liverpool on the handicap at minus a quarter goal, 2.07. You can get RB Leipzig with a plus quarter goal start at 1.85, and the gold line is set at 2.75. You can get overs at 1.96, unders at 1.94 rather. It's an interesting one, this, because these two sides have rather contrasting form since the first leg. Leipzig have won all 4 games. They're second in the Bundesliga. They're 2 points behind Bayern. Liverpool have lost 3 of the subsequent 4 games. They've lost 6 home league games in a row. I actually have to confess, I'm based in Spain. I follow Spanish football more than any other league. So I wasn't fully up to speed on just how bad Liverpool's form has been until I started researching the programme. 6 consecutive home defeats, just 1 goal scored in that time. It's really quite shocking how they've sort of dropped off dramatically after that long unbeaten home run in the Premier League. So, Mark, are we taking Leipzig on some sort of handicap here?
Yeah, I think so. There's 2 wagers that do appeal. First thing, just to be clear, this game's taking place in Budapest. So I think that's probably a good thing for Liverpool, considering their form at Anfield right now. That they're going back to sort of neutral territory yet again. Probably, I know there's no fans, but for whatever reason, things just haven't gone right for them at Anfield recently. And I think it will help. I actually thought they played pretty well in the first leg, despite being gifted the goals by Leipzig as well. So we know they're capable, but obviously the weekend performance against Fulham was really, really alarming. If the others weren't, that certainly was. I know Klopp made 7 changes, tried to freshen things up. Had a brand new, I think it was a brand new centre-half partnership anyway, just 2 young lads. Again, it's just the issues with the centre-halves at the moment is it's kind of playing into the midfield, the centre-halves issues, it moves into midfield and also up front as well. And the supply going forward hasn't been great. So there's a lot broken with Liverpool right now, and it's just, are they going to be capable of turning that round for this game? I do expect them to qualify, but I expect Leipzig to put on a much, much better showing than they did a fortnight ago. They were really disappointing. Julian Nagelsmann, for unbelievable achievements that he's had at this age, at such a young age. Wonderfully versatile, adaptable, all those brilliant assets. I sometimes think he's a bit too clever for his own good. There's almost an element of Pep Guardiola in there when it comes to the Champions League. I thought he got his selection wrong. I thought he got his system wrong in the first leg. Easy to say that in hindsight, obviously, and I know you can just blame individual mistakes, and I understand he was trying to select a team that had pace on the break to kind of put Liverpool under pressure, but it just didn't work. I'd much prefer someone like a Yusuf Poulsen up front to play off, as well as a bit of pace as well, to provide a link and a focal point too. So I'm really interested to see how he approaches this game. Obviously, they've got a lot to play for in the Bundesliga now, just 2 points adrift of Bayern, as you say. But Liverpool are vulnerable, and the issue really is that Liverpool have 2 away goals. I know we're playing a neutral territory here, but it's 2 away goals. So Leipzig have to score at least twice to have any sort of opportunity. And Liverpool, if they do score, suddenly you need 3 goals. It's going to be very, very difficult. However, as we said at the start, the first goal is going to be absolutely key. If Leipzig can get that early goal, suddenly Liverpool become a lot more jittery. The confidence that has been evaporated in the last few weeks is going to be tested, really. So, yeah, I do like Leipzig on the 0 star ball on the Asian handicap. Odds against, I think that's quite appealing. But I also like the look of over 2.5 goals at 1.75. I did want both teams to score. It's too short. You're not going to get above 1.7, unfortunately. But I do expect Leipzig to score. Why wouldn't you when you're looking at Liverpool defence with all the centre-halves missing? It's just a matter of fact and how they can, when that goal comes, and how they react to it thereafter. So ideally, you need them to score first to sort of really put the jitters into Liverpool, but I think they're well capable of doing that. So, yeah, Leipzig plus 0 on the Asian handicap and over 2.5 goals would have been my favourite plays.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a relatively obvious play to back Leipzig in some way, given their form contrasting with Liverpool's. Brothers, what are your feelings? You're muted, my friends. We cannot hear you. We'd love to hear you.
So sorry, trying to be professional and then being completely unprofessional. I'm so sorry. Yeah, completely agree with Mark in all aspects, really. I think if you look at the first leg, Liverpool were, as Mark said, gifted those 2 goals by, just catastrophic defensive errors. Now, Salah and Mane took their goals well, but, ultimately Liverpool are not creating an awful lot from open play. Mark's made a good point about the fact this is in Budapest, and I think psychologically that will help Liverpool because it may feel as though they're away from the pressure of playing at Anfield. You look at their home record this season. Before those 6 straight losses, they had 2 draws as well. They've scored 1 goal at home in 7 matches, and that was from a penalty. So it's just that they're not creating anything. I think a lot of that comes down to the point that Mark made about having the shortage at the back has put a huge amount of pressure on the midfield. So you're seeing players being shuffled back from midfield who would ordinarily link the play from back to front, the likes of Henderson, Fabinho. And, those players in the first leg were exposed. I mean, Henderson, when he played there, Hwang came on in the second half, and within a few minutes, he'd spun in behind Henderson, and Henderson got a booking for fouling him. And then in the injury time, again, he spun around off him. And this is no fault of Henderson's. Obviously, he's not used to playing at centre-half, but Hwang got in behind, had an excellent chance to get a goal back, which would have made this tie exceptionally interesting. As it is, I think the first goal will be crucial. I think if Leipzig can score it, then that will create an enormous amount of pressure on a Liverpool side that are obviously low on confidence. But I think it's one to tread carefully. I think Leipzig will perform better than they did in the first leg going forwards, and they can't do as badly go at the back. So for me, I'm very much with Mark. I think Leipzig on the handicaps, albeit it may be a case of looking at this in play and taking a view as you go along.
Okay. Yeah, Leipzig draw no bet at around about 2.19. looks very tempting indeed, and also with a quarter goal as well could be of interest. Over 2.5 goals at around about 1.76. Have a look at those two options for that game. Let's move on and talk about the blockbuster tie in terms of names this week. PSG against Barcelona. PSG, of course, 4-1 up from the first leg after a rampant performance at the Camp Nou. You can get them at 2.13 to beat Barca this week. Barca at 3.25 to win in the French capital, and the draw is at 4.3. If you want to take PSG with a minus quarter goal handicap, you can get them at 1.87. Barca with a plus goal handicap at 2.04. And the gold line, well, I told you, goals in the first leg looked appealing. The goal line in the first leg of the Camp Nou was over 3. It's over 3.25 for this one. You can get it at 1.86, under 3.25 at 2.04. Obviously, it's second in Ligue 1 against second in La Liga. But Barca have been in really strong form since that first leg, and I'd say that morale is probably the highest it's been all season. Obviously, morale doesn't win matches, but Leo Messi does. Is there any chance of another incredible Barca comeback against PSG, brothers?
No.
You're on PSG, aren't you? You're all over.
I think in terms of the match, this is another one of those ones which is very, very difficult to predict based on initial thoughts, because Barca have got to score 4 times to stand any chance of qualifying in this game. At the same time, they've got to try and keep PSG out of the back. Now, Mbappe showed in the first leg that he's got the pace and the skill and the ability to terrorise this Barcelona backline. Albeit, actually, I think being without Piqué may be a benefit for them in this game, because we saw in the first leg how slow Piqué is, and having him in the team, as they have to have if he's fit, is going to be an issue against someone like Mbappe. Whereas at least this way they can revert back to the 3 at the back that they've played in the last few games, which is an interesting switch in their tactics, because Barcelona obviously for a long time have played a very static formation and kind of let teams adjust to them. But recently they've been playing this sort of 3-5-2 formation, and it's seen an uptick in their form. And ultimately, I think it's going to be a game which PSG will approach with confidence. I fancy PSG will win it because I think they are simply the better team. But Barcelona, as you say, have improved significantly since that first game. But again, it's significantly in a La Liga context. Now, seen in European football, La Liga sides struggling when they're playing teams from other leagues potentially. In most cases, I think obviously one of the exceptions. But certainly looking at this game from a tactical standpoint, it's hard to know how Barcelona can set up here. Do they sit back and try and hit PSG on the break and try and keep everything really solid at the back? I'm not sure they're capable of doing that. Do they then try and keep possession, play the usual manner, and look to Messi to be a genius? Possibly. I just don't see any way that they can win the tie sufficiently to go through. So the question then is, what do PSG do? Neymar has been sort of announced he's going to be in the squad. I'd be very surprised. I'd be amazed if he's in the starting lineup, but I'd imagine he'll be on the bench if needed. I don't suppose he'll come on if they don't have to. But we've already seen that Moise Kean, Mbappe, Verratti, all these players who played so well in the first leg, there's no reason why they can't do that again. And PSG, again, this is going to be I know they're struggling in Ligue 1, which is unusual for them, and so that there is an issue with them having to concentrate on the league a little bit more than normal. But this is still their prime consideration. They lost in the final last year. They're desperate to win this competition. They're negotiating contracts with Mbappe and Neymar at the moment. These are players who want to be winning Champions Leagues, and I think coming into this game and looking at the betting, I think PSG at odds against is a very fair price. I don't think Barcelona have got the quality to contain them. But again, whoever got rich backing against Messi. So it's one of those games that's very much a case of a watching brief, see how it plays out. If PSG score the first goal, you could just see Barcelona down in tools and being happy just to play it out and leave it. So it's just such a hard match to have a firm opinion on up front, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many hopes in Barcelona of a memorable comeback. They've got to score 4 goals in Paris to have any chance of a comeback, and it looks a little bit unlikely. Kylian Mbappe scored a hat-trick in the first leg. He's been scoring goals as well in Liga 1 coming into this game. If you had to bet in this game, Mark, and I know you're a little bit dubious about potentially picking a selection in this game, but if you were to edge towards a selection, maybe PSG to win could be of interest.
Yeah, for sure. I'd rather be on PSG at the prices they are than Barcelona. That's for sure. I thought the first leg was one of the ultimate head scratchers, really, because PSG were not really going anywhere fast domestically, playing pretty bang average football. Barcelona seemingly on the road to recovery, so their recent form's been good, certainly since that first leg. But even before the first leg, there were still little signs that they were getting back to not near their best, but somewhere getting close to that at least. And then there was a huge wave of market support towards Barcelona going into that first leg, and we wondered what might be wrong in the PSG camp potentially. And it was just a complete carve up, really, and thrilling game, but quite special to see PSG play in that manner. A real brutal performance, and the defence was shredded, really. And I don't see any reasons why that Barcelona defence is going to be any better this time around, with PSG being able to just play. I'm not going to say they're going to contain and counter, but if they do want to just play in transitions and wait for Barcelona to turn over possession, they've got that potential to do that with Mbappe in fine form. Verratti's fit and available, played in the Cup at the weekend. I know Moises Ken, I think he was struggling with COVID, so whether he's available, I'm not sure, but I think Verratti is the key one. If he's in that team, which he looks like he will be, PSG for me are definitely the play to have. As Broad has said, if PSG do get the early goal, there's quite a big chance that Barcelona at some point might just declare here and say, look, this race is run, so let's conserve our energy and look forward to the La Liga title race, which they're right back in. So yeah, I'd rather be PSG.
Sorry, 2.13. Essentially, what we're thinking there is PSG to score the first goal, because if they score the first goal, it's basically over.
Yeah.
More or less, if you want to look at it like that. All right, PSG, we like the look of them against Barca in Paris. To another game, which is pretty finely poised, actually, of all the matches this week. This might be the closest one. Juve against Porto. Porto winning the first leg, rather surprisingly, certainly for us, 2-1. You can get Juve at 1.45 to win this week. Porto offered it 7.8 for the draw at 5.0. You can get Juve at a minus 1.25 goal handicap 2.07. Porto with a plus goal and a quarter start at 1.83, and the goal line set at over 2.75 here. You can get 2 overs at 1.99. You can get unders at 1.9. Porto were pretty good in the first leg of this game, and certainly they wouldn't have been flattered if they'd won it by 2-0. But that late Federico Chiesa goal giving Juve quite a lot of hope of going through. However, Porto have been strong defensively in the Champions League this season. They've kept 5 clean sheets in 7 games, admittedly against weaker opposition. Yeah, all right. I'm more diplomatic here, but yeah, against lesser fancied opposition. But if they keep another clean sheet, they're through this week. Mark, that's not going to happen. Surely Juve are going to get the win that they need, a 1-0 win, and they're through.
Yeah, possibly. I have a feeling Brothers and I might differ on our opinions on this game. Again, I'm not overly strong. It's just, I was really impressed with Porto and the way they went about their business in that first leg. Pressing Juventus so high, forcing them into errors from the very first minute. And I know the goals basically came from Juventus's errors, and it was quite comical to see them play in that way, really. But that lifeline, really, that away goal late on could easily tilt this in their favour. Certainly, it has in terms of the market. And it's a big task now for Porto to try and get back into the tie, even if they are ahead. But, I thought they were so tenacious. If they can replicate that performance in some way in Turin, I think there's an opportunity for them here, because I think that was basically the only negative really was conceding. They were much better team throughout the 90 minutes, and whether it was complacency or whatever it was from Juventus' side of things. I've just watched them quite a lot now in recent weeks, and despite getting some results, I'm just not being impressed by them as I probably should be. You even go back to last Monday, was it, when they played Spezia at home? Spezia completely untroubled for probably 45 minutes, an hour of that game. It was only really when Morata and Bernardeschi came off the bench that the tide turned. Then again at the weekend, made a really slow start against Lazio, where it were distinctly second best for quite a lot of that game, and managed to sort of claw their way back into things. A really peculiar refereeing performance too. But yeah, I mean, it's those slow starts really that's cost them, not necessarily cost them in domestically, but definitely did in the first leg. And so if Porto can prey on that vulnerability, I think Porto can score, put it that way. And if they do, suddenly the nerves from the last two seasons, have Juventus been out of this stage in the last two seasons? I think they have, haven't they? Was it Ajax and Lyon? There's vulnerability there for sure. And you look at the players who I wouldn't say are going to be missing, because certainly Italian press suggests that Chiellini and De Ligt will be back in the frame. Bonucci and Arta are certainly available, but Bentancur has COVID, Danilo is banned as well. And of those four players I said first, I don't think any of them are going to be completely 100% match fit either. So they could be plugging holes here with players who are 75, 80% fit. And to me, that presents an opportunity for Porto. Again, I just go back to Juventus. I think they have looked a little bit blunt in recent weeks. Chiesa's been the shining light in terms of energy and invention. I know Cuadrado was back at the weekend, which is great for them. But I just think if Porto score, Juve are going to wobble a little bit. And I know Ronaldo's in there, but I wouldn't put anyone off back in Porto to qualify. And I also don't mind Porto plus a goal and a quarter. I do think they can score, and suddenly Juve need three. So, yeah, I'm with the underdog in this game, surprisingly. Okay,
that's interesting to hear. Looking at the odds and then actually thinking about Juve's performance, I was suggesting to Mark that, yeah, surely they're going to get the win. But actually, the odds on a Juve victory aren't particularly tempting, brothers, although I know you're leaning towards that angle.
I am. I mean, Mark's right. We have got different opinions on this game. I mean, I think one of the interesting aspects, as Mark has touched on, is that Juventus haven't played that well, but yet have still beaten Lazio 3-1 at the weekend without Ronaldo. They've beaten Spezia 3-0. They beat Crotone 3-0 prior to that in the league game prior to that at home. So, this is a team that are still struggling to find an identity, I think, under Pirlo. It doesn't strike me that he's fully got the team and the backing that he needs potentially. And there is a shortage in midfield with Bentancur having COVID. You would imagine that Arthur will slot into that sitting midfielder role. But again, he's only come back at the weekend against Lazio, and as Mark says, it probably isn't fully match fit. I guess the question is whether or not Porto are going to be able to mirror their performance in the first leg by being able to pressure Juventus high up the pitch, whether or not they'll have the bravery to do that, and whether or not then Juventus are sharp enough to pass around them. Now, I think Cuadrado being back is a huge thing for Juventus. He's one of their main creative outlets down that right flank, and he's been enormously effective both in the league and in the Champions League so far. So him being back, Ronaldo coming back, having been rested at the weekend and being fresh for this game, again, is another massive positive. I know he's a physical freak, but he's still in his late 30s now. So having the opportunity to rest before a big game is surely going to be a positive. And especially as he was so poor in the first leg. I think you can't underestimate the level of pride and ego that he has, and playing against his countrymen in Portugal and not performing as he would have liked will have hurt him tremendously. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Ronaldo come and strut his stuff in this game and really put on the show. Morata coming back and playing well is another positive for them. They've missed him, especially with Dybala being injured. So I think if you look at the match, I can't see any scenario really where Juventus don't win this game, because ultimately they are better than Porto. The reason they lost the first leg was just pure sloppiness and playing badly. And I accept that could happen again. But you just feel as though this side has so much experience and so much quality that they're not going to allow it. And I think we're going to see a game where, as Mark says, it's possible Porto could score. You look at the defenders who are coming back who probably aren't fully fit. You look at Bentancur being out. Porto scored against Man City in the group stage in the away leg for them, but they still lost 3-1. Now, I'm not saying Manchester City and Juventus are on a par, but I still think that Juventus will find a way of winning this game. And for me, I would be looking at Juventus -1 on the Asian handicaps at around about 1.75. Maybe you can get 1.8 if you're lucky. But I think, that sort of price is very fair in a game which Juventus could still do what they did the last few weeks and play average to bad and win 3-0 or 3-1. And I don't think Porto simply aren't that good a team.
There you go, lovely listeners and viewers. Two very opposing views on this game. Mark firmly in Porto's corner, liking the look of them, plus a goal on a quarter start at 1.84. Brothers looking at Juventus minus a goal at 1.74. As ever, you've heard the two arguments. It's up to you to decide your play. I'm slightly more convinced by Mark, but there we go. I'll leave it there. No,
Can't pretend that doesn't hurt.
Sorry. Last game then is the one between Borussia Dortmund and Sevilla. Dortmund 3-2 up from the first leg a couple of weeks ago. You can get them at 2.27 to win. Sevilla at 3.22, the draw at 3.78. Dortmund with a minus quarter goal handicap at 1.93. Sevilla with a plus quarter start at 1.94. The goal line is at 3. Overs at 1.92, unders at 1.96. 3 weeks is a long time in football because when we were talking about this first leg, I think we all made pretty potent cases for backing Sevilla. They were coming into this game, I think it was on a run of 9 consecutive victories. They hadn't conceded in 7 matches. They were looking really good. They were potentially outside La Liga title contenders. And it's all seemingly fallen apart because since then they lost this first leg. They blew a 2-0 first leg lead in the Copa del Rey semi-final to get knocked out by Barcelona. At the weekend they lost to La Liga relegation strugglers Elche. It's seemingly come apart for Sevilla. I think morale is the lowest it's been all season for Julian Lopetegui's side, and they've got a mountain to climb, albeit against a Borussia Dortmund side who blow a little bit hot and cold, but they are Borussia Dortmund side that have Haaland. Brothers, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that first leg, it was almost as though Sevilla believed their own press and thought there's no way that Dortmund are going to be able to break us down.
They listen to what? They listen to, subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, Lopetegui, obviously felt as though they were going to be able to contain Dortmund, and they scored the first goal and then just sat back. And they were just sitting there waiting for Dortmund to come at them. And that was, in hindsight, clearly a huge mistake because Dortmund tore them to shreds. Haaland is the most phenomenal young player. He's up there with Mbappe. He is going to be a world superstar for a number of years. I mean, I've said before in this pod, I think he's one of the best finishers I've seen, certainly at that age. He's just got an extraordinary ability to put the ball in the net. But in that Sevilla game, he also showed his physicality. He just absolutely bullied the Sevilla defence. And this is a defence that's got a very, very highly touted centre-halves in Jules Koundé and Diego Carlos. And they just simply couldn't handle him. Now, why should they be able to handle him any better in this leg? You could argue that Dortmund are going to be without Sancho. Haaland came off at the weekend after the Clasico with a knock on his ankle, but that looks like it was purely precautionary and with one eye on this game as well. So I think we can expect Haaland to play. Sancho's projected to be out, but this is not an area of the field that Dortmund are hugely lacking in talent. They've got so much ability going forwards that we shouldn't worry too much about that. So I think the main question is, how does Sevilla approach it? They can't sit back, I don't think, in this game, because they showed in the first leg if they're going to sit back and invite Dortmund onto them, Dortmund have got the ability to hurt them. So they're going to have to approach this game, I think, positively, and that is going to open things up. And for me, the main angle that I want to approach this game is goals, because I think Sevilla have got the quality to hurt Dortmund. We talked about the fact that Dortmund's defence are poor, and again, we saw at the weekend they shipped 4 to Bayern. But this is a team that can concede goals to anyone, seemingly. Now, coming into that Clasico, they'd actually kept 3 clean sheets in a row, which might suggest otherwise. But this is a team that has been letting in goals all season, and Sevilla do have quality going forward. They've got a Campos back now. They've got Gomez, who weirdly was played out on the left wing in the first leg, which again is another one of these scenarios where he left Atalanta under a cloud because he refused to go on the wing, and then he goes to Sevilla and gets parked out in exactly the position that he didn't want to play at Atalanta. But I think if you can play Gomez centrally, let Campos play out wide, they're going to create chances against this Dortmund defence. And I think Sevilla just have got to go for it, because it's pointless them sitting back. So for me, the angle here, I wouldn't necessarily want to get too involved with the 1x2 markets or the handicaps, because I think both sides have shown an ability to concede goals from nothing. And I think for me, taking over 3 goals in a game that Sevilla have to push ahead on is the way to approach it.
Okay. We've got a question from a viewer, Tom Berry, asks, Mark, is it worth throwing a few quid on Seville in the outright market? You can get them at 151.0 to win the Champions League. Those odds obviously shooting up after the first leg. A wry smile from Mark. Is it worth a few quid?
Probably the wrong person to ask, because if I'm honest, I'm still bruised from that first leg, having interest in Sevilla to get a result, Sevilla to qualify, Sevilla outright as well. So, yeah, I need the Sevilla to turn it around big time myself. Would I back them right now? Probably not, to be all honest. You talked about it there at the intro, Phil.
Maybe
team,
so. Maybe £1 worthy of £1.
Yeah, maybe a quid if you got it down the sofa. But this is a team who were looking very strong, very resolute, very organised going into that first leg, and they've suffered some very damaging defeats since. Not just Elche at the weekend, where they did make 7 changes, was it, or at least many changes to rest and recuperate with this match in mind. But basically, the 2 ties against Barcelona, one in the Copa del Rey, where they allowed a comfortable first leg lead to run away from them, and then also in the league game as well. They've looked blunt to me. They've looked lacking ideas. They've looked tired, which isn't ideal really. And I thought Lopetegui was almost outthought in that first leg too, which is really surprising. But my issue really with kind of backing a goal-heavy game here is I just don't associate Sevilla as a team who run up big scores. I don't associate them as a team with the individual brilliance and clinical attitude and effectiveness in the final thirds to really put teams to the shreds. They're more of a grinding team in my mind. They're a team here who've got to score at least twice to have any hope at all. And again, it goes back to this first goal. If Dortmund score it, then Sevilla are going to have to really come out of the traps. And I'm just not sure they've got that capability in them right now. But then you look at Dortmund, who, you kind of look at the way the Classica went, 2 goals up inside 10 minutes. But they were so clinical, and it was Haaland basically who got them 2-0 up. Apart from that, they barely did anything else in the game. Edin Terzic said after the game, as did all the players actually here interviewed, that they weren't good enough to get a result. They weren't good enough with the ball, and they weren't good enough without the ball. And as well, they just looked exhausted because they played in a Pokal game midweek against Gladbach as well. So I think we've got 2 teams here who probably not in peak physical condition coming into this match. So yeah, there might be a potential for goals. It's just one of these games. I'm really looking forward to this match, but I'm finding it, this is the most difficult one I found of all 4 to find an angle that I really like. And right now, I pondered just having a couple of big each way first goal scorer prices. On the Sevilla side, Jules Koundé and Diego Carlos, you'll get probably at least 20 to 1-ish. Neither played at the weekend. Both are quite often targets from set pieces and dead ball situations. They've only scored 4 goals between them this season, but they are often targeted from dead ball situations. And Dortmund do concede from set pieces. They did so in the first leg. They've conceded 10 goals in the Bundesliga from set piece situations as well. So it's a definite area of weakness. And I think if Sevilla are lacking in invention stakes, which I think they have been in recent weeks, set pieces could be the way forward for them. I just think Lopetegui, I don't think he's foolish enough to sort of go for the jugular from the off. I think Sevilla will play a patient game, but Broadrick sounded a lot more confident than I did here, so I'm happy for you to go with him for the best bet.
The thing that I'm looking at it, I just think that Sevilla surely from that first leg will look at it tactically and say, look, if we sit back and try and play a patient game, we're going to get torn apart by Haaland. We've shown we can't cope with this guy, so we have to try and find a plan to get around it and to starve the service to him, which I don't think they can necessarily do. And I just think it's one of those games that they have to be positive in. It's a knockout tie of the Champions League. They're not going to the Europa if they get knocked out. But if you look at their results in big games this season, they lost against Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, they lost to Barcelona.
Been really timid, haven't they?
They lost to Dortmund. Well, when it comes to the the big moments, and then there's been a lot of criticism of Lopetegui as well as a manager here in Spain, that there is this idea that when it comes to the big moments, he and his sides choke. David Moniz has sent us a David.
Yeah, David's a big fan of mine, I can tell.
He says Sevilla and overs is like. Well, he says if Mark and Brothers, if they disagree, then Lord knows you should be on Team Mark. He also says it's like Marmite and bread. It's not a good combo. Which that's open to debate really, because a lot of people like Marmite and bread, although not that many people like Sevilla and overs, because not lots of the games go overs. So there we go. Thanks for the interaction. Of course, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, make sure to send us a comment and get involved in the program. We're drawing to the close of today's show. Let's just recap our selections. We've got Leipzig draw no bet at 2.19 against Liverpool. Also have a look at over 2.5 goals at 1.76. PSG to win at 2.13 against Barcelona looks pretty decent. A bit of discrepancy in the Porto Juve game, so we're not giving a best bet for that one. But we're going to suggest over 3 goals in Dortmund Sevilla, although we have a little bit of discrepancy there as well. But there we go. We're giving Brothers the benefit of the doubt. The Matchbook promotion that I told you at the start of the program is for new customers. Sign up and you can get 0% commission on all sports until the 12th of April. Check out matchbook.com/promo/insights for more information, and use promo code insights to sign up there. Okay, so that was the bet recap. We're going to get the guys' best bets of the week, the individual bets from each guys. Mark, what is your best bet for this week's Champions League fixtures?
I'm going to give it to Leipzig +0 on the Asian handicap. Very slightly ahead of PSG there, just because of Liverpool right now, and I think Leipzig have a lot to prove. And they might not win they might not qualify, but they can still get a result in the second leg and go out. So yeah, I'll give it to Leipzig. Okay,
and Brothers, what's your best bet of the week?
I think out of principle, I'm going to go over 3 goals in the Sevilla.
There we go. He's nothing if not principled. It's a hill he's willing to die on there. So there we go. Over in Sevilla, Borussia Dortmund there, and Brothers is pretty convinced of that selection. That's it for this week's edition of the Matchbook Champions League podcast. Thanks very much for joining us wherever you've watched us or downloaded the podcast. Great to have your company. We'll be back next week to look ahead to the other set of second legs in the last 16. Some really good ties there. So make sure you join us then. See you next time. Bye-bye.